What I love to do is introduce the right people to the right people.
I assemble the smartest people I can think of or reach out to carry that conversation, and that's exactly what I've done today.
Please give my panel a round of applause. Welcome. Hey, Martin here, CEO of Cambridge House, and we are searching for our next investment opportunity. Right now, I'm joined by Tier 1 Silver, recently Tier 1 Silver from Tier 1 Metals. And I've got the chairman, Auryn Bebek, and the new CEO, Pete Dembicki. It's good to see you both. Welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to have you and introduce Tier 1 to my audience, because Auryn, you've been on a handful of times in the last year. And most notably, we sat down, it was like in the spring, June of 2020. You were still running Auryn Resources at that time. And you were walking my audience through your plans, right? You were going to split Auryn into 3 companies. And it made sense to me. Like, I liked the optionality at Auryn, right? You had numerous projects, but from a retail investor standpoint, I liked how you were simplifying the story, right? Because we all want optionality, but we also want a clear path to profits. And so what you've done with Auryn since then is split it into a gold company, Fury Gold Mines, which is now listed, Tier 1 Silver, which we're going to talk about today, listing soon, and then Sombrero, which is the copper play. And so you've got these 3 segmented plays now. And I remember your core messaging when we sat down in June, to my audience anyways, was, look, guys, we're going to do this split. And there's going to be an interim period between executing the split and then coming back to the market with these projects. Fury is now listed, Tier 1 soon, Sombrero next. But in that interim period, we're going to be working overtime to make sure we come back to the market with substantially more value than the last time you saw us. So that's going to be the core focus of this conversation, Auryn. I want to know what you've been up to. And I mean, for starters, you have a new CEO right here, Pete. So I'll let you open it up, Auryn. Give us the highlight reel of what's been going on since the split for Tier 1 Silver.
Sure. Great. It was awesome to meet with you last spring and foreshadow a plan that we've actually executed on all fronts. A lot of strategy behind our group on why we do things, when we do things, and when we're going to deliver that value that we've all dreamed about creating for shareholders, including ourselves. With the forming of Tier 1, as you said, I advertised that there'd be a lot of changes since we went off until Tier 1 got trading, and a lot of value would be created. We've started with announcing the targeting outcome of our summer work programs, geophysics most importantly. We gave everybody a real snapshot of how big the target is underneath all that silver, mainly silver and some gold that we've been sampling on surface. Incredible opportunity, 4 by 5 kilometers of a lot of multi-kilo silver veins, now up to 300 kilo or 298 kilo silver as of yesterday, which is a phenomenal metal budget, and up to 934 gram gold with a massive target underneath to possibly go for the source. First part of the value creation was showing people that there was a third dimension possibility. We've done that. Second part of that major equation, obviously we all want to see drill permits. There's a big value difference. We did receive them on December 28th. We've got our FTA. We just need a start of work, which will be filed and completed well before we start trading. And then thirdly, the addition of a CEO such as Peter Dembicki, somebody I've known from my early days, since I was in elementary school, actually, which the time of knowing someone builds a lot of trust, loyalty, and integrity. That I followed him, into his career as a broker. It was a very big advantage for us to get somebody like Peter. And, we didn't need another geologist because our team is second to none, as you know, former Newmont global geologist. And we didn't need another corporate person because myself and Sean are in the background. We really wanted to enhance the ability to perform. And that goes with financings, drawing investor audience, but share price performance matters a ton to us, as you're well aware. And so Peter comes in, he's been on the deal side, he's put deals together, he understands the capital markets to a point where I would go to him for advice prior to having him come join us. And that's the kind of credibility and acumen and his integrity is something I've really admired since I've seen him in the business. So a really good fit to the companies. Last point, is that there's about 5 press releases to come out between now and when Tier 1 trades. So outside of, more great silver numbers and showing everybody a glimpse of what the targeting looks like, we've got some more acquisitions to build out the pipeline of this company. And what we want to give shareholders is much like we offered in Auryn, but silver focused, a pipeline of major silver swings and possibly gold swings in southern Peru.
Okay.
But the focus has been by the coast, where it's a lot easier to permit. As you've seen, we've got a permit in hand. And to say we have a permit, Jay, that was the one thing missing out of Auryn for a few years. It's nice to have it. So here we are today. This is the start, and welcome, Peter.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for that. Yeah, Pete, I want to hand it over to you. And it's interesting. I didn't know your background, so that's fascinating. Pete and I actually know each other because, Pete, you were at Canaccord Genuity, and
right.
we actually invested in a lot of the same companies, call it from like 2014 to 2019. What I like about seeing somebody with that background transition to the CEO of a capital markets company, a publicly listed company, is that I want someone who understands how to drive the market, right? I mean, I'm a retail investor. I love you guys, but I'm in this to make money. And so somebody who understands how to deliver value to their client base at Canaccord Genuity, I'm excited to see what you bring to the table at Tier 1. But so you were at the top of your career at Canaccord, you made this transition. Why'd you do it?
Yeah, first, thanks for having me. Second of all, it wasn't an easy decision. Well, at the end of the day, it was an easy decision. It was a big decision to switch careers like this, but I wasn't walking into a standard exploration team. The infrastructure that was set up here prior, given the Auryn Resources and the history of success that Ivan has had previously, made this a clear opportunity for me. The technical team that was in place here with Michael Henriksen and David Smithson on the ground, this is a extremely high caliber operation that's firing on all cylinders here. And so when Ivan presented the opportunity to me and showed me what was under the hood with Tier 1, I'm overly excited to share with the investing public of what's to come. We're in such a unique position here where we're not yet listed. We are working every single day to achieve that listing in the coming weeks. We're aiming for end of February, early March listing. Okay. And as Ivan mentioned briefly, we have a lot of news to come out in between now and then.
Right.
And at the end of the day, this is not too dissimilar from what I left at Canaccord. I have to ensure that my shareholders are achieving maximum value, and it's a huge responsibility from my perspective. And it's about telling the story, and it's about telling the story correctly, and getting everyone on board.
Okay, now I'm sure you were paying attention to this, and good decisions become great decisions when timing's on your side. And you're now jumping into the head of a silver company. And I can say, all I do is have conversations like this with macro finance experts, company CEOs, et cetera. My ambition is to find consensus, right, in the investment theses and then action that. And silver was top performing commodity in 2020. I can tell you today, all the content that we've lined up over the last 2 weeks, I've probably conducted 7-8 interviews per day. We want to come out strong in 2021. Consensus remains for incredible demand for silver. Still the top pick among the majority of personalities that I have on this show. Okay, now you mentioned 5 press releases, Ivan, so I want to dig into that a little bit because, sure, the real most important question with any company is what's next, right? So,
sure.
So what's next for Tier 1?
Yeah, so, the best performing companies have the most catalyst, and the 5 press releases just to start. So we just completed an acquisition. It's a project up the coast. This ranks as the top 3 things our former Newmont technical team has seen in their careers. I'm not going to say much more until the press release comes out because I don't want to do it injustice. It's earlier stage, world-class swing, right address next to a world-class mine. But, the opportunity there from a geological perspective is real serious. And that project will daylight in terms of pre-drilling work while we're drilling the silver project at Curibaya, the silver target. Another acquisition, a silver one, is being pursued. We hope to get that deal done by the end of this month in Peru, and this will add to the silver story. Again, these are really good silver swings, and if you know us by reputation, if you look at Committee Bay or Sombrero or now Curibaya, we're going after really big swings and really high quality projects. The cool thing about what we're doing here is that everything is in a permeable environment that we can get drills on in a much more expeditious time frame. As you're seeing now, we have drill permits that are going to be in hand. We'll drill a month after we're trading or sooner. So a couple acquisitions will be key. Everyone's going to learn a little bit more about why we're so bullish on Curibaya in terms of the age of the rocks of when they were formed. It's on one of the most prolific mining belts in the world, with mines that are big as or bigger than Las Bambas in terms of Tocopala, Quellaveco, some of the big giants by the coast. And we tend to fall in that same era of when those mines were formed. The big story, that's really knocked us on the head kind of thing has been that everything in the system has been preserved. Normally you would have the precious metal part of the system eroded away, and you'd be looking at a porphyry underneath it. So in the case of Curibaya, the entire system's preserved. Beyond that, you're going to see a lot more stuff with respect to the targeting refinement, the pipeline of news coming. There's another asset in the portfolio people don't know we have that's also silver. So a lot of daylighting of the view of assets to come, and then the game plan of what's going to really drive constant news flow, constant results as we head into this bull market. So the next 5 press releases, they'll shape up around the quality of what we have. There'll be a lot more validation on the opportunities and introduction of a couple acquisitions, and then we'll hit the ground running as we come listing with drills turning probably within a few weeks of that first day of trading. So again, extremely, extremely exciting next few weeks. I actually wish we were public today, because I'd love to see the reaction of some of the news that's going to come out, some of the opportunities and the shaping of this company. But I think we're going to do, Pete and I are going to do an incredible job of outlaying that through video presentations and interviews such as this as the news comes out prior to our launch. We do have to do a financing, and sometime we'll do it sometime in February on the back of these acquisitions, on the back of the kind of pipeline and action plan of the company coming out. We've had a lot of interest for this funding. We have not even thought about how much we're going to raise specifically yet, or the price, because there's so much value still to come out when we complete this portfolio. But as a former Auryn shareholder and watching this whole thing unfold, what I was looking for as an Auryn shareholder was I wanted a lot of meat on the bone. I wanted a real opportunity. As you know, marketing and performance is a massive function of any good investment, and bringing Pete on, that was an incredible compliment to something we needed some more support in. I formerly was a stockbroker myself, or investment advisor in the beginning of my career, and it's come a long way. My passion was for major discoveries, to work around premium groups, and I see the same, a lot of similarities with Peter. So it's really great to have him here to drive this forward. But very, very busy 4 or 5 weeks, a lot of news to come out. We're going to hit the ground really exciting with drills turning a few weeks after trading.
Okay, now I want to pull on one number that you mentioned earlier in the interview, Ivan, 298 kilos silver. I want you to put that in context, because the silver market's a lot smaller than people realize. So when you talk numbers like that, can you give us any comparisons that we could relate to?
Well, I've followed silver stocks and discoveries with a lot of envy from my entire 22 years of being in the business. And I've always been late to those investments, because by the time people are drilling the silver discovery, the stock's on a hockey stick, Canadian term, hockey stick kind of movement to the upside. So actually having one in camp is exciting. When we see the numbers like 298 kilo silver, and all the 2, 3, 10, 12 kilo silver on this property in a 20 square kilometer area, 4 by 5 kilometers, a massive alteration system, you start to dream a little bit about what the source, and what if we hit that vein deeper down where it was coming from, and how thick could that vein be at depth. The actual samples we're putting out are fairly narrow veins, full disclosure, and we don't hide from that. We're promoting metal budget here, saying that there's a massive, massive metal budget, obviously up to 298 kilo silver, up to almost a kilo gold. But what we're getting really excited about is the rocks that the silver sits in on surface. They're in a tuff, which is a very soft type of rock, which is very hard for veins to form. So you naturally will get thinner veins. We have feeder structures that come down from surface to 550 meters down. So it's a massive target from surface. And about 150 meters down, we hit a stratigraphic layer of harder rocks, which are sedimentary rocks. And this is where we see a massive chargeability target right underneath it, which could be the kind of pooling or the source where all this silver came from before it kind of came up in these feeders and went to the surface. So I think when I look around, you're asking me to compare. I don't know of anybody as of lately who's been pulling that kind of silver numbers. I haven't seen him in a long time, not just the 298 kilo silver, but the constant kilo silver over such a vast area that kind of all hones in on a real big sweet spot that's not too far beneath the surface. So I think it's second to none on its own. I think that there's it's a unique swing in a very small market that hasn't seen a world-class silvery discovery, really of consequence since Silvercrest, and we all know how well that's done. So I think we're on to a really good one here at Curibaya, and I think that the metal budget, has us all dreaming about what kind of kilo silver we can find subsurface if we find the source.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Ivan. I want to pass it back to you, Pete, and I want you to touch on the timing of the listing. I know that's what people are most curious about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're working really hard with the exchange to get this thing listed on an ASAP basis. If we could possibly list tomorrow, we would. Absolutely, we're that excited about this project. So right now it is just we're taking it each day with the exchange to get this thing going as soon as possible for our investors. And the target is still end of February, and we'll leave it up to the exchange at that point as to how fast we get this thing listed.
Okay, got it. Now, one thing that I want to touch on, the real most important resource for companies like you is cash, right? It's what you're always going to need. And, if you've got a market tailwind, cost of capital goes down, access to capital becomes easier, but doesn't always play to your favor like that. So that's one advantage that I see with this team now. And for two reasons, Ivan, you've got two big wins behind you. So you've gained the confidence of the market and people want to bet on success because success begets success, et cetera. But Pete, you bring a network to the table that a lot of CEOs don't have, right? You come from a background of raising cash for numerous companies. Ivan, was that part of the decision to bring Pete in? I want to get behind your decision-making here, because I know you brought Pete in because you guys have a history, there's trust. You obviously see a very high level of competency. But what was the value add that Pete brought to the table that struck you? Why did you pick him as the CEO?
So our biggest strength is our shareholder base. And we've curated that for 5 years with Auryn, to develop really high quality investors. Some of them, some are publicly invested and they've complemented what we're doing. As you're going to evolve into a better company, you always look for additional shareholders that could be accretive to make the registry stronger going forward. I think Pete has an incredible handle on a really high quality group of investors, and to bring in an entire new network to complement the existing network, it will double down how good our share structure is, and it'll give us more opportunities to raise capital and be more competitive with financing pricing and terms going forward. So it was a major decision point, on a strategy basis. I think on our end, it was really intelligent to bring an entire new network of investors that can look forward to learning and getting associated with this company. And the second part is, Pete cares, as he said earlier, a lot about the performance of his clients or his investors, their portfolios. And to bring that kind of business attitude, we're going to be anti-dilutive, from this point forward, as we always have been. But we're also going to look to make sure we are heavily marketed at the right time with really good opportunities. And, a lot of CEOs love the performing share price, but, knowing how to get there it's not in a book. You can't read it. It takes a special kind of DNA that and as a broker, you live by that DNA, and you hope that every CEO you're backing cares as much about the share price as you do for your clients. So with Pete to come in both on his reach with his network, it's going to give us a lot more competition in our financings, which will relate to better terms. And we are going to start expanding our shareholder base with a whole new crowd of investors. So real clear, real simple decision, real hard person to find, of somebody that we can add the words trust and loyalty and integrity to, because not that there's not a lot of guys out there that aren't trustworthy, more because a lot of the other people, we don't know them as well as I got to know Pete, right? So, for Peter and us, it's a good compliment on both sides. He gets to be part of a very well-established team that's very mature. I mean, he gets to walk in with drill permits in hand, sampling 298 kilos silver at the forefront of this crazy bull market, and you and I have spoken about timing in terms of February, as you could almost set your watch to the seasonality and metals. And I think we'll see a very strong market by design on our end for timing that we can finance tier one silver in as we go forward. So, it's really exciting to have somebody very market minded like Peter that can strengthen our registry with his network. And it's real simple, and care as much as we do about the share price.
Love it. Okay. Yeah. I mean, everything becomes more competitive in a strong market, including access to talent. So welcome to the team, Pete. You guys have got a great supporting cast with Michael Hendrickson, his background at Newmont, David Smithson, et cetera. Definitely a silver company to watch. I want to thank you guys for coming on today. It was good to catch up, get some insight into what we can expect. And I want to do it again, either shortly before or after the listing. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much.